Pamphlets, and I'm telling you what, that is, I think for me, has been the best thing we've done. I love it.
Me too. Me too.
I love the
Um,
joining.
I love Regis's um
His, his avatar.
avatar.
Oh, it's
uh,
Avatar.
adorable.
it is very cute. So
Oh, so
Cute. The
cute.
little mouth, you know.
oh, see. Oh, Regis, I should tell you this. Sandy has to work on the 4th of July. Of all the times that she there, that's that stupid hospital. People keep getting sick. I don't know what's wrong with them. But that sucks. Okay, all right, I'm gonna play a song. All my uplifting talk here. That sucks. But you all know what I mean. You know me. That's what's so beautiful about all this is that we know each other. All right, here we go.
Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatma Shri Bhagavati Samhita Shri Bhagavate Namah Om Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatma Shri Bhagavati Samhita Shri Bhagavate Namah Om Tat Sat Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatma Shri Bhagavati Samhita Shri Bhagavate Namah Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatma Shri Bhagavati Samhita Shri Bhagavate Namah Om Satchitananda Parabrahma Purushottama Paramatma Shri Bhagavati Samhita Shri Bhagavate Namah Om Tat Sat
All right. Thank you all for joining us this evening. That just puts you in a mood. That was Tina Malia and the Mula Mantra, which is very commonly said 108 times. We didn't do it 108 times, but definitely would be fun to do. I enjoy doing that myself. All right. So, hello, everybody. We are here. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share before we get going on our book or a study? What did I do here? Fix my. Yes, ma'am.
Is that me?
Oh, was there? You know what? I just.
I just did want to share something. I was
Yeah.
listening. I'm sorry, Laura, did you want to say something?
I think Brooklyn wanted to say something too. So,
Oh,
but
no,
I just saw.
I just threw a kiss to Karen.
Oh, I saw your hand go up. So that's what I think.
Okay.
But yeah,
Um,
Karen.
Yeah, I was
Laura.
listening to Dove and Sharon and Lori and Dove's daughter, the the poem that she wrote on the parking lot. I literally cried when I heard that because the last hours of my dad's life, I sat in a parking lot with him, and he had to get out. He just had to get away and out of the house, away from this toxic relationship he was in, and we sat hours and hours and hours in that parking lot, and it was the most beautiful experience I had because he just was just. It was all forgiveness opportunities, tons and tons. All he did was cry, cry, cry to me, cried about everything and how sorry he was. And I told him there was nothing to be sorry for, nothing. That he was the best dad in the world, and I just it was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. And when Dove read that, it just reminded me of that experience I had with my dad. And that was she should publish that. I mean, that was an absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if you would call it a poem or what, but it was amazing. It really touched me. I just wanted to share that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I would like a copy of that, Dove.
I'll try and put it up there.
Thank
Me
you.
too. I would love to read it.
Yeah. She is brilliant. I love her. She's in my morning class. What do you call it? Lesson group on Saturday mornings. And
Believe it or not, the the lady you know is Taylor. That's Allison's daughter.
who is?
Allison is my daughter, and Taylor is her daughter. That's true.
Who is Taylor?
That's the one who comes to your class.
Oh,
She's I think she's 30 years old.
oh, she comes to my. Oh, okay.
That's Taylor, yeah. And Allison is her mother.
It's Allison that wrote the poem.
Yes, Allison wrote.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Natasha.
Oh no! Oh, Natasha.
Yeah, she's in my class on Saturdays.
Okay. She's a different.
Well, yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
You got the whole family going up there. All right. Anything else? Do you have that, Dove? I would love if you would read it.
I will find it. Yeah.
Okay, find it and let's read it. All right. So, oh, look what happened here. Did she go to the barber? I'm sorry. Just because before this started, we were talking about her hair. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, good. I'm just putting cream on my leg. So so let's get our reading up. And we have moved along to a next section of the process of psychotherapy, the definition of healing. So it's very interesting. All this we're in the second part, and in the the sixth section, and we're now just coming to what is the definition of healing. So you'd have thought that had been the first thing, but I don't organize the class. Sharon, go ahead.
Oh, let me see. I wanted to tell Karen that it was so helpful today. I was on my walk and I listened to her hour, and it was just very helpful, Karen. So I wanted you to know that because I needed to hear those things over and over and over again. So thanks.
Oh, that is so cool. Thank you, Sharon, for sharing that. Okay. Oh, here's the poem. Do you want to, does somebody want to read this poem that's in the chat that Doug put here?
Let Karen read it.
What, do you want to make her cry? What you trying to do here?
No, so
I'm,
those are
I'm kidding you.
I'll read it. I loved it. Let me just get out of here so I can get into the chat. Oh yeah, this is so beautiful. At many different points in my life, I found myself sitting in a parking lot. A parking lot is an easy place to run to when you just need to get out, when your heart is broken, when you don't know what else to do, when you don't have anywhere else to go, when you need to sit in silence and drink a coffee in peace, when you're having the hardest conversations, when you're trying to make a big decision, when you just got the worst news, when you're not ready to go home. A parking lot is a place you can be alone, even as humanity continues to hum and move around you. It's a place you can be anonymous and safe, where there is space for whatever you're feeling. It's a place you can sit in your car, heaving big, ugly sobs, and not a soul will judge. Because haven't we all found ourselves there before? The thing about parking lots is that they are transient. They're a resting place, a reprieve, a semicolon for your thoughts and feelings. But you're not meant to stay there forever. And after I find myself in a parking lot, I always manage to make my way home. God, I love that. Thank you, Dove.
Thank you. Thank you for reading.
I was late. Forgive me. Who wrote that?
Allison Fishman, who's my daughter down in Georgia.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Karen. Very nice. I've been in some parking lots. Thank you, Karen.
That was gorgeous.
Me too. I love it. All right. Okay, so are we ready to start our reading? Who would like to read paragraph 1? Rafi, please go ahead.
I didn't raise my hand to read. I just wanted to comment on the poem.
Well, that's too bad.
Um,
I'm funny. I'm being funny tonight.
It's kind of in the style that I write, and what I write. And that's kind of what. That's all I just
Rafi, you're moving in and out.
I said that style of writing is how I do a lot of my writing, and I've labeled it prosatry because it's an amalgam of poetry and prose. And Dove's daughter seems to have done quite the same thing. That's all.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rafi. All right. All right. Who would like to read? This is some prosatry too here that we're reading. It's poetry and prose.
As long as I'm here, I'll just take it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The definition of healing. The process of psychotherapy then can be defined simply as forgiveness, for no healing can be anything else. The unforgiving are sick, believing they are unforgiven. The hanging on to guilt is hugging close and sheltering. It's loving protection and alert defense. All this is but the grim refusal to forgive. may not enter here, the sick repeat over and over, while they mourn their loss and yet rejoice in it. Wow. Healing occurs as a patient begins to hear the dirge he sings and questions its validity. Until he hears it, he cannot understand that it is he who sings it to himself. To hear it is the first step in recovery. To question it must then become his choice. Absolutely. Take responsibility.
Yeah, I think this is Jesus putting the real smack down here on us. I think when I read it, it's like, okay, here's what it is. The process, the healing or is because you are sick, you're unforgiving, and you believe that you're unforgiven, and you're hanging on to guilt and hugging it close and sheltering it. It's loving protection and alert defense. All this is but the grim refusal to forgive. And why is Jesus telling us this? What am I not forgiving? Because obviously there is something that otherwise I would not have the kind of uh, uh, unhappy or silly thoughts that I have sometime about the world. So, it's much better now. I don't do it as much, but I still do look for guilt, hang on to guilt, expect guilt, project guilt, and all that's happening when I'm doing that, he says, is like putting up a sign that says, God may not enter here. That is uh comes from the rejoicing in the judgment. So once you start recognizing that, it's kind of embarrassing. Really, it's kind of embarrassing that I've been fooling myself for so long. Uh, yeah, but but to hear it, to recognize it, as Jesus said, that's the first step. Rafi, please go ahead.
You touched on it a bit when you said projecting, because what the ego does is project it out there and say it's their fault, and there is no their fault. Everybody's a mirror. But as soon as it does that, there's no way that you're going to go in, see what it really is, and get rid of it, and so you can be free of it with that forgiveness process. As long as you're pointing a finger at somebody else, you're screwed. Literally, it's just that because that's how egos function. And I keep reminding myself over and over again. It's never them. There's no them. This is coming from, if I see it in them, it's coming from me. I got to go inside and fix this and fix it right away. And that's the blessing that's hidden in it. If you don't see the blessing that's hidden in it, you're screwed, and it's going to be that kind of suffering is just going to stay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you want it. That's the rude truth about the whole thing, is because you want it. It is not happening to me, and I'm the innocent victim of my ego and its crazy ideas. I want to see guilt, and I want to be angry, and I want to be afraid. I want to feel special, and I want to be right. All of those things, all of those things are the reasons that I'm still experiencing a world where there's suffering and hatred and war, and I'm experiencing that because I want to see it. And that, I think that's what he's telling us here. You'll never figure it out until you recognize that you're the one who's doing it to yourself. The secret to salvation. Vishnu, please go ahead. Vishnu, did you want to talk?
Yes, sorry, I
Okay.
forgot to unmute myself there. Yeah, just to add, I really like what you were saying then about the whole wanting it part. And you would think, well, why would I want to be sick? I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. But I feel like the other way I see it is, or that helps me to understand why I would want it is there's where the course says that we're far too tolerant of mind wandering. And so, staying in Asia, there's a lot of different kinds of flora and insects and bugs, and it's tropical where I am. And I realized that if I don't keep my kitchen clean, the ants come out like in droves. Do you know what I mean? And so then it hit me that it's the same thing with my mind. It's not that I want to be sick; it's that if I don't keep my mind clean, then it's like there's a guy named Tom Campbell talks about entropy, where it's just uh, the lower the entropy, the more loving it is. So if I'm not looking after my thoughts, then I'm automatically attracting entropy or negativity or guilt and sickness because it's the default. Or like if you don't garden your weed your garden, by default you're going to get weeds. So this is how I help me to understand the wanting it part. It's not that I really want it, but I'm by default, if I'm not looking after my thoughts, then that's how I'm wanting it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not rejecting it, and I'm not looking at it and saying that's a silly idea. Uh, and so yeah, until I recognize that I'm the one who has the choice, I'm going to be fooling myself. And of course, you can't fool yourself. That's just so ridiculous. What a silly idea. But that's what we think. I'm fooling myself. The ego's got me or whatever. Anyway, Sharon, please, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this.
I have my hand up? No, I didn't put my hand up, did I?
Sharon's phone has a hand up.
Oh, okay. I'll take it down. I didn't take it down from before.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know
Sorry,
it was up.
so sorry.
Okay, but Karen has her hand up, so go ahead, Karen.
Thanks, everyone. I just love what everyone's sharing. I love what Vishnu shared, keeping my mind clean. That is, it reminds me of what this is saying here, that it's a process of forgiveness. And only the mind can be sick, so only the mind can be healed. So, and then what Rafi said about it's not about them, and it's never about them. And that's the biggest lesson that I've been learning lately is it's not about them. And when I feel like someone's triggering me or something is, I think it's something that's outside of me that's upsetting me. I'm so trained now. My mind is getting so clean, as Vishnu said, and so healed that I bring it back to myself. I know it's not the other person. I recognize it has nothing to do with anything outside of me. And that is such growth. And that is, but there's still sometimes when I like to hold on to things too. And I'm knowing it. Like you said, you want it. There's times when I just want to hold on to something, and I don't want to let it go. And like a dog with a bone. It's noticing this, and the unforgiving are sick. The mind is sick, believing they are unforgiven. The hanging on to guilt, hugging close and sheltering its loving protection. That's like pretty deep. And alert defense. All this is but the grim refusal to forgive. And, I just thinking about my dad today, and, we don't have to wait till the end of our lives to ask for forgiveness or to forgive. This is what's beautiful about this course. We're learning to forgive now, because it was the end of his life and all he wanted was forgiveness. And he felt like a piece of shit. He felt like the home of evil, darkness, and sin, like he was the worst person in the world. And he let it all out, and doesn't have to wait till the end of our life, and that was a big learning lesson for me. So thank you.
Yeah, and in fact, it is the beginning of the resurrection. I mean this is what happens when when we stop, like, the getting process, the idea that something has to be different and that something has gone wrong and it's somebody else's fault, and all of these crazy thoughts that we have. um, once we start recognizing that their thoughts are actually crazy, then we can look at them. But I think a big problem is that a lot of people don't know the difference between the thoughts that are in their mind and their real thoughts. And a lot of times it's really confusing as to the thoughts that I have in mind versus my real thoughts. Because the thoughts that I have in mind are always there and they're always presenting themselves to me. But,
Yeah, I feel like I'm going crazy. I had a yogurt with cinnamon.
um, so, uh, uh, so yeah, when I get caught up in those thoughts, and I absolutely know that I'm doing it. I absolutely know that I'm doing it, and it may not be a conscious knowing at first, but it is definitely a visceral knowing. Like my body, I know, and that's when you start experiencing guilt, is because you're you know that you're doing something that is against your own best interest, or isn't loving for your brother, and you know that you're doing that. um, but you don't want to look at it. And so what happens, of course, you push it down, and when you push it down, it just gets darker and darker and more and more and more powerful, really. Anytime you take anything and compress it to the point where you can't compress it anymore, it's going to explode. And that's what happens with us on a regular basis over and over and over again, because we don't want to face the guilt we feel because of our judgments. Basically, you don't want to face the guilt that you're experiencing because you are unforgiving. And I'm saying you, meaning me, I am unforgiving. And so that's where the guilt comes from. The guilt doesn't come from the fact that I did something wrong. The guilt comes from the decision to want to attack and to judge anything, judge the world, judge my body. We're talking about even your body. Okay, today I decide I'm going to go on a diet because I'm just get too fat. And, I'm thinking about going to Scotland in a couple months, and I'm thinking, I don't want to be waddling my fat ass up on the airplane or whatever if that particular thing happens. So, I want to get in better shape before that. uh, but what do I start doing? I start hurting myself and torturing myself, and telling myself, you can't have, don't order donuts when you order the groceries, even though you love the donuts. But you don't, you don't want to, hurt yourself anymore. And then if I did buy the donuts, I'd feel guilty. And I didn't buy the donuts, and I'm sad because I don't have donuts. So but I don't need donuts. That's just an example of how we fight with ourselves, and we hurt ourselves. We hurt ourselves. We attack ourselves. What is it? Anything different than an attack on myself by telling myself, those things I just told you about me. I'm too fat and I don't want to waddle my ass up the airplane aisle. That's that's an attack on this physical body of Lynn that doesn't isn't helping. I'm not forgiving. Anyway, enough of that. Anybody else have any thoughts about the process, the definition of healing, paragraph 1?
I was just going to comment about your donuts. I have the same problem with milk chocolate. I love milk chocolate, and I eat them like M&Ms. Got to be milk chocolate, nothing else. And I eat them like M&Ms. And I got to say, I'm starting to get a little stomach. I used to be carved up till I had surgery, and now I got me a little pooch. I went, oh man, I can't be walking around like this. And but I wasn't beating myself up. I was using it for an incentive to say, hey, if that's the way you want to look, keep eating chocolate. So I kind of just turned it around on me rather than beat myself up like I normally would. And I wanted to thank my friend, my dear friend, Miss Karen, for talking about her dad, because I had a lifelong of misery that I created with my dad. And I really didn't get to know him till I went to this thing. I don't know if you ever heard this writer called Robert Bly. This was before I met you guys. He had a gathering of men. And he was talking about sometimes because they come from the old school, sometimes men don't bond until they're 65. And because I used to call my father and say, hey, Dad, how you doing? And he'd say, here's your mother. He wasn't a conversationalist. He wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. And I didn't find out the way later, he didn't know how to love. But I always resented him because I didn't feel like he loved me. I was an all-star and all-American athlete. He never came to see my games. He was always working. I didn't think about he was working because he was supporting a large family. I just thought about he wasn't there. Everybody else's father's there, but my father's not there. And I carried resentments for a long time about him. And he had to go into the hospital. And I said, you know what? I started going to New York once a month. By that time I was living out here, I started going to New York once a month, and I just go sit with him. He's not a conversationalist. I do all the talking. He's one of those, I love you, Dad. Mm-hmm. How you doing, Dad? Okay. I mean, his words were like 5 or less all the time. And I had to find out I never accepted him for who he was. I always hated him for who I wanted him to be. And since I've done a lot of work since I met you guys on that. Before you guys, I was hanging out with Jennifer Hadley, and she had me writing these forgiveness letters. And man, I spent a lot of time crying. Oh my God. And some of it wasn't things I said or did, it was some of the things I thought about this man that really loved me. But I guess as much as I resented him for not loving me the way I wanted to be loved, I was resenting him for what I thought I needed that I didn't need. I was never hungry. I had clothes on my back. I had a good education. I mean, there was a lot that he did do, but I just waited till almost at the end. I said, I got to go talk to this guy. I can't let him just leave the planet like this. And little did I know, I was going for me. I thought I was going for him. So I was going to save him, I thought. And it was me that I saved. So Karen just reminded me of that. So it's anything, I'm gonna be like after Rafi, I'm gonna be like my twin brother Rafi, and I'll read the next paragraph after Rafi shares.
Very
Thank you for reminding me about my chocolate.
good. Thank you, Recall. My goodness. What amazing and beautiful sharing. I'm so, so grateful for you. And Karen, thank you also for just, this is something that's problematic for so many people, these relationships with our father, it's all symbolic. So, the closer we get to looking at writing those things down or however we look at them and figure out what our grievances are, the sooner we can get rid of them. Rafi, please go ahead.
Yeah, what Rico was experiencing, I experienced a little of that too, because what I didn't realize until later on, and my brother and I both figured it out, that generation of men, they were indoctrinated into it's wrong to express affection, it's wrong to express love, it's wrong to hug, it's wrong and to be that silent type and let the woman handle everything because they're in touch with their feelings. But that was a generational thing. Men of that generation were somehow indoctrinated into this thing that it was wrong to express love and affection. And then when we finally figured it out, my brother and I finally figured it out, we'd look back on our lives and realize that even though he wasn't expressing affection, he wasn't expressing love, being warm and caring and effusive like that, there wasn't one thing he didn't do that wasn't for us. And so we took it for granted. We're raised in a great house, they're living the American dream. They're immigrants, they're working their way. Both of my parents working 2 jobs to make sure we had everything that we could. They were expressing love in a completely different way that we didn't even notice until we got older and stepped back and took a look at it in a real way. I think, oh my God, there was way more love here than we ever gave credence to. And from that point on, our entire attitude changed. He didn't change, but boy, he was there for us every step of the way. I could tell you a million stories about what he did for me, my brother, my sister, that, you know, some fathers wouldn't even know how to begin. He managed to do stuff that was astounding. I don't think I'd be sitting here today if it wasn't for what happened with her, with my mom and my dad. And we finally gave him the credit he deserved.
Thank you, Rafi. That's beautiful. My goodness, I appreciate so much hearing those kind of stories. And you know, it's not too late now. Even, I mean, I know that you've worked your way through this. A lot of folks are working their way through this. It's not too late to go back and have a great relationship with your dad. You know, it's not too late because there's no such thing as time. You know, we just do it in this lifetime. Karen, please go ahead.
Yeah, Rafi, I remember you sharing something about your dad that was very full of wisdom. He said, you know, be kind to everyone because you never know what they're going through. Your dad taught you that, and that is a beautiful thing to teach a child. And Rico, I love what you shared, and you said you didn't accept your dad as he was. You hated him for what you wanted him to be, you know? And so, I mean, that's how my brothers were towards my dad. My brothers were I had three brothers and two sisters growing up. My dad worked like crazy. He was a workaholic and an alcoholic. And he was never, I mean, never went to my brother's games. My brothers were all athletes, all three of them really good athletes. And my dad never, my mom did everything. My mom went to all their games. My mom did it all, you know, and they resented my dad and they hated him. They hated him growing up and they feared him. They were afraid of him because he was an alcoholic and he would come home and he would, you know, he was pretty, you know, mean when he came home. When he was drinking, he was mean and abusive. So they had every right, I guess, to be scared, but that they're just such good forgiveness opportunities. And, you know, when he was crying his eyes out to me, I could see the pain in him and how many regrets he had and how he wished he could have done things differently. And, you know, and I really felt so much love for him in that moment. I always felt love for him, but I felt so much love for him in that moment. And when I said to him that you were the best dad in the world, I meant it. I didn't say it just to make him feel better. I didn't say it because he was feeling bad. I meant it. Like he was the best. Like, well, like what Rafi said, like just because they weren't there in some ways, they were there in other ways. You know, in so many ways, I learned so much from him. And I think we do take it for granted when we're younger, but I really appreciate it as I got older. So I just think it's a lot to be grateful for. And my mom's still alive. My mom's 84 now. And you know, she's not doing well. My dad died young. He was 60, but I believe everything happens the way it's supposed to. So I just love hearing these stories. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Thank you, everyone. So yeah, so the whole idea of, you know, for the forgiveness, that is the first thing that we have to recognize is the places where we didn't have forgiveness, the things that we refuse to forgive, the things that we're terrified to forgive. You know, this is you can't hang on to it. And so, you know, it's great to have that kind of experience of actually seeing what happens when you let go of the judgment and accept things as they are. So I love that. Thank you. Anything else on this first paragraph? I'm moving it so Rico can read paragraph 2. Got your glasses?
Glasses, and I got my sister from another mister, Miss Karen, just really touched my heart. Thank you. There is a tendency, and it is very strong, to hear the song of death only an instant and then dismiss it uncorrected. These fleeting awarenesses represent the many opportunities given us literally to change our tune. The sound of healing can be heard instead. But first, the willingness to question the truth of the song of condemnation must arise. The strange distortions woven somebody help me, inextricably? What's the correct pronunciation?
Inextricably. Inextricably.
Inextricably, thank you.
Inextricably.
Into the self-concept itself, but a pseudo-creation, make this ugly sound seem truly beautiful. The rhythm of the universe, the herald angels song, all these and more are heard instead of a loud, discordant shrieks. Wow. There's a couple of similarities that we were just talking about. These fleeting awarenesses represent many opportunities. I like this one here, as it applies to me, of course. These fleeting awarenesses represent many opportunities given us literally to change our tune. But when that ego's heavy on me, my tune don't want to change. For whatever reasons, I want to be there. I don't volunteer to be miserable, but for whatever reasons, I think staying in that ego space does something. I don't know what it does. I know it drives me crazy, but I got to get back to the heart. You know, it says the sound of the healing can be heard, but it's like a quiet fiber running through me. But the ego is like a cymbal. It's much louder. And I keep hearing that and not hearing that quiet thread running to me about healing. But first, the willingness. Do I have the willingness to question the truth of the song of condemnation must arise? Sometimes I question it, and sometimes I don't. But I like the way they sing that song there. The sound of healing can be heard instead. But first, the willingness to question the truth of the song of condemnation must arise. So I need that to happen before I question the truth. The strange distortions woven inextricably into, or however you pronounce that, self-concept itself, but a pseudo creation. So I'm making I'm making stuff up as I'm going through whatever saga I'm going through. I'm making stuff up, and I'm making this ugly like it's beautiful. Like I'm proud to be mad at you. No, I'm not, but I'm acting like that. The rhythm of the universe, which I love, the herald angels of song, all these and more are heard instead of that loud, discordant shrieks. That's what I need to hear, but that's not what I always hear. And it is by conscious choice, because with the way my life is and hanging out with people like you, I should always hear the rhythm of the universe. Sometimes my monkey mind and my ego get together and I want to hear some BS instead of listening to the letter of truth. So thank you guys. I love you guys.
Thank you, Rico. I love you too, brother. And we're going to dance to the rhythm of the universe, and it's going to be lovely. Dove, please go ahead. Get closer to your mic.
It's muted. I would say Rico is right on, because we don't really want to see the other person innocent. We really want to see the other person as wrong, and I'm right. The most important thing is the ego doesn't want to feel that it's guilty. It wants to see the guilt in somebody else. So I can remember my own thoughts. I can consciously remember when I said, well, I'm going to leave it this way because I don't want to let them off the hook. I don't want to let them off the hook. And I knew exactly what I was doing. I want them to feel bad. I want them to feel wrong, and that I'm right. And of course, the course uses the word guilty, that they should be punished, and I go scot-free. So that's really the purpose of coming into this world, because we feel so guilty from what we think we did with our Father, Heavenly Father. We left him, or he somehow kicked us out of the garden. And, I don't want to be punished. I want someone else to be punished. So we come here, we hide out in a body. They'll never notice me, and see other people as guilty. But that's the nature of this world.
Yes, thank you, Dove. Yeah, and it is. That's the nature of this world, and this a world that we made to be this way. And this is what all he's trying to tell you. You wanted it, you asked for it, you got it, and here it is. And we can complain all we want about it, but unless we're willing to change it, which you don't have to change the world, you just have to change your mind about the world. And if you're not even willing to do that, then what makes you think, oh, here. All right, I'll be right. I'll call her in a minute. That's my daughter. If you think that I've lost my train of thought, so I'm just gonna turn it. Dove, do you still have your hand up or have it up again?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, Rafi, then go ahead.
Yeah, it comes down to, as long as I identify with the body and say this is me, then I got to defend myself against the world, and I got to get their approval in order to be safe. And while I'm wanting their approval and defending myself against them at the same time, I'm in a constant state of conflict. I'm in a constant state of suffering. I'm in a constant state of that ego wheel, hamster wheel going round and round and round and round and round. And you're never gonna breathe a moment of the peace that we really are, or the happiness that is the truth that is innate in us. It's and ego is very tricky because it can make you think, it'll get you up like into pride, saying, well, I'm doing it right now. Now I got it. And as soon as you do that, you're stuck again. Okay. When there is no, I got it or I don't got it, and you're just standing back and being the witness of it, then you can see, first of all, I am the infinite being. And that's just coming from an ego mind concept. And that's not what I am. And it's going to carry on like that craziness. And if there's something, and if I react to it, then I'm caught up in it. But if I'm just watching it and coming from a place of love and compassion and discernment, or then it can't own me. But as long as I think this is who I am, you're just stuck in it, because you're coming from a place that's completely not the truth.
Thank you, Rafi. It kind of reminds me. Keith says it's the fly paper. We actually get stuck in our own fly paper.
Very true. That's pretty funny. All right. Anybody else? Anything on paragraph 2? Let's move on to paragraph 3 then. Oh, this is good. Ooh. Who wants to read paragraph 3? Brooklyn.
Oh. Does Brooklyn want to read it?
Yeah, she has her hand up.
Oh,
Okay.
do you want to read it, Sharon?
I don't care, but your hair is adorable.
Don't
Oh,
argue, ladies.
I put it up.
Oh, I love it.
My hair grows like this.
Oh, it's so cute.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
you can read it.
Okay.
You can read the next one, Sharon.
The ear translates, it does not hear. The eye reproduces, it does not see. Their task is to make agreeable whatever is called on, however disagreeable it may be. They answer the decisions of the mind, reproducing its desires and translating them into acceptable and pleasant forms. Sometimes the thought behind the form breaks through, but only very briefly, and the mind grows fearful and begins to doubt its sanity. Yet it will not permit its slaves to change the forms they look upon, the sounds they hear. these are its remedies, its safeguards from insanity. To chew on that a little bit. I listen to Bashar, and Bashar is very A Course in Miracles. And it's so, this reminds me of what he says, that the ego, like the analogy he gives is when we go deep sea diving, we need a mask. And the ego is the mask we put on to function in this world. Like like the ears and the eyes but the decisions, the decisions of the mind, that has to come from the mind, not the ego. Of course, the ego is not, he says it's not its job to decide anything. And when it's given the role of decision maker, it cracks under pressure, and then it can't see straight. And I just thought that fit, yeah, like the mask we need to go deep diving, or the mask we forget we have on in this world. And okay, so sometimes the thought behind the form breaks through, but only very briefly, and the mind grows fearful and begins to doubt its sanity. Well, yeah, that's experience. I'm sure we've experienced that. You will not permit its slaves to change the forms they look upon, the sounds they hear. These are its safeguards from insanity. Yeah. It's just forgetting we're not the mask. The eye, the ear that doesn't hear, the eye that doesn't see, and yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brooklyn. Thank you for breaking that down like that. Yeah. So, as he's saying here, we're not really even hearing or seeing anything. We're seeing a translation or a reproduction of what the eye sees and what the ear hears. All of these ideas that we have are just our interpretation of whatever it is. So this interpretation is what we mistake. We then look at it and think that that's the form. That is the reality of what we're seeing, is this interpretation that we have developed based on our own misunderstanding and actually our own desire to see people and things as different. So that's what we do. We look at other people and we compare them to I really like tall dark people. Is this a tall dark person? How close are they to being the tall dark person that I like? And whatever variation of person to come to that thing that I see as ideal, I'm going to be then giving each one of them a value based on what it is how it is that I interpret what I'm seeing with them. And so that's what we decide beforehand, what it is that is acceptable, and then we look for it in others. And if you don't have it, just like being a young blonde-haired girl in America or any place in the world, people are going to interpret you as being a certain thing. You probably, they're going to interpret you're not very intelligent. They're going to interpret that you're weak. They'll interpret that you're not very wise. You're a bubblehead. You're a blonde. These are interpretations that we give to the being based on the our picture, what we interpret from our point of view of how people should be, what's attractive, what's wholesome, what's good. And so we have all these interpretations. So when we look at our brothers, we label them with some level of that goodness and acceptability. So, I know that was kind of a lot of rambling here, but I'm just seeing this is how the ego does it. The ego says, this is what I want, and then compares what it sees to what it wants, and then makes a judgment on what it's seeing based on that comparison. And then, you might eventually change your mind and find out that, you like shorter people now, or, there's nothing, that's just a gross I mean, it could be, how well are they educated? How do they speak? What kind of a car do they drive? I mean, we have all these things that that give us a picture of what it is that we're seeing. It's a reproduction of what it is that we're seeing based on what we want to see. And so, as if everything in the world matches our point of view, then everything's hunky-dory. And when things are not, then there's problems, but there's always going to be problems because nothing's ever going to match what we expect. So anyway, this is how we let what we hear and see judge, guide us in what we what we want to see or what we believe. Sharon has her hand up, and then Rico. Go ahead,
I
Sharon.
just want to thank everybody. This is a great session. Brooklyn, what you shared was so helpful where I'm at today, because like I was sharing in Mickey's group that, tonight's the debate, and I have a lot of people in my family that are very political, and I was too. And when I went to Spirit, I got it so clearly that nobody's out there because it's all in my mind. So if I have a thought about either one of these presidents or even an opinion, that's about me. And I had to see this. And then coming here tonight and hearing all of you, because the truth is the ego is so slippery and it will sneak in there and give you like, well, you want this one, and what it does is it pulls us into drama. But what you had shared was so helpful. And Lynn, you've had clarity all day. Your clarity is just off the charts. But, and also what I saw in me, there was a lot of denial, when I would say, when this course would say, I want to be right, because the subconscious mind hides that. It just does. And I saw it today when Karen was sharing, I was listening to her, and that's it. I mean, that's the ego that wants to be right. And what I have to really get is, I'm not the ego. That's the biggest lesson the course teaches, because you can't be an ego because an ego isn't real. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sharon. And I love that. I love that because, it's almost like we're preparing ourselves for a spiritual battle, kind of, putting on our armor. When we come together, we're like, okay, there's a battle going to happen, and there's something going to happen that's going to be upsetting. So let's come together, let's get our minds straight, and let's decide that we're going to think right about this. And we bounce off of each other and help each other. So I appreciate your openness and your honesty, and I love you. Thank you, Sharon. Rico, please go ahead.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Sharon, for that share. I appreciate that. That hit home. Lynn, you covered this paragraph so masterfully. I just want to say how much I absolutely thank you and love you for this paragraph. This needs to be bronzed into my consciousness. The ear translates. That's all it does. It just translates. It does not hear. Hearing is when I heard Rafi and Karen share tonight. I heard them, and how I could tell is because my heart jumped. I could hear it and feel it. But I'm listening to some other things, and it's like a translation. Now I know that's all it does. The eye can't see Christ consciousness. The eye reproduces what a sick mind puts on the the blueprint and looks for that. So a sick mind can't heal a sick mind. You know, the answers, the decisions of the mind reproducing. I don't want my mind to reproduce anything. I'm trying to learn to operate from my heart. I absolutely love this paragraph. I absolutely love this paragraph. I'm gonna have to make me a sign, put it on my forehead. The ear only translates. I'm just glad since I've been with you guys, I've learned to hear some things. I don't hear everything, but I learned to hear some things. And my meter is I feel it in my heart, regardless of what the conversation's about. Then I know I'm hearing. The other stuff just goes zip, zip, zip. So I absolutely love this paragraph. I've never seen it in that form. The ear translate. The only thing I would have changed is I would have put only. But I really love this paragraph. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rico. And yes, yes. And Ken Wapnick says, because there's a couple of places in the course where it says something like this. And Ken Wapnick says, what do you do after you read that the ear doesn't hear and the eye doesn't see? What do? Just keep reading the book? You just when you see that, that there's much more to this experience than what is apparent to the naked eye. And so, that's, he's not chiding us for not finding it, but he's saying, look closer, and listen closer, because you're going to hear things and you're going to see things that you didn't know actually even existed. The reality of what's there. And that's what I was telling the folks earlier when we were talking about the presidential debate. And Deb says Ken calls that the master Cohen. What do you see when you know that the ear doesn't hear and the eyes don't see? So we were talking about the presidential debate, and I was saying, what if we just did a little experiment? And if we happen to be watching it, we see these people up on stage or wherever, sitting on a chair, whatever they're doing, and we look at them, and like the lessons of the course teach us, look at each one of them, see a light inside of them, watch as the light expands in them, and see the light expand out to where they're completely enveloped in light, and then have that light come and fill you as well. Fill yourself with the same light that you're seeing in this person. What if we did this with both of the candidates and completely forgave all of our thoughts about them? What do you think would happen if we completely forgave all of our thoughts about them and realized that, I don't have nothing to judge these people by. I don't know anything. It's a story I'm making up in my mind. And it's a picture that I'm making up. It's an opinion about what I think is right and wrong. These are my ideas. They have nothing to do with reality, and yet I'm looking at my brother and burdening him with all of my judgments. Rafi, please go ahead.
Well, you really nailed it. You really did. Because if you're seeing them as the divine light, you're seeing them correctly. If you're seeing them as people, separate people, then you're seeing them from an ego mind point of view. And that means that they have attributes and drawbacks, and it's going to be judging. Oh, I like this, and I don't like that. I like this, and I like this one, and I don't. And that's has nothing to do with the reality of the divine light of being that we all are. As soon as you start seeing, or anybody start seeing people as individual people who have flaws, or to whom I really admire, you're coming at it from an ego point of view, and nothing is going to change for the better. Nothing is going to happen that is going to be the least bit part of our awakening.
Yeah, we're just going to be stuck in the same old trap all forever until we give it up. I was just thinking about the Elvis song. We're caught in a trap. I can't walk out because I love you too much, baby. And what that song is called? Suspicious Minds. And that's exactly it. We can't go on together with suspicious minds. Oh my God, Jesus and Elvis. Anybody else have anything on this paragraph? Uh, we just have to look. These are our own defenses. Oh my gosh. All right, enough foolishness. No, I have decided I'm going to sing at least once every time. I've just decided today. My goodness, why don't I just sing when I feel like it? Okay, I will. All right. Who wants to read paragraph 4? Thank you, Rico. Who wants to read paragraph 4? Karen, please go ahead.
Paragraph 4. These testimonies which the senses bring have but one purpose: to justify attack and thus keep unforgiveness unrecognized for what it is. Seen undisguised, it is intolerable. Without protection, it could not endure. Here is all sickness cherished, but without the recognition that this is so. For when an unforgiveness is not recognized, the form it takes seems to be something else. And now it is the something else that seems to terrify. But it is not the something else that can be healed. It is not the sick. It is not sick and needs no remedy. To concentrate your healing efforts here is but futility. Who can cure what cannot be sick and make it well? Oh, this is a perfect for me to read right now. What a great paragraph. All right, so these testimonies which the senses bring have but one purpose: to justify attack and thus keep unforgiveness unrecognized for what it is. So I'm sensing with my eyes and my ears and my brain, and I'm seeing something outside of myself that I think is justifying my attack. I'm angry because you just said this, or you just did this, or you didn't do this. And I'm keeping unforgiveness unrecognized for what it is, when the truth is, the only way I can justify any kind of attack is to look within and see, which teacher am I listening to here? I'm listening to, as Dove would say, a madman. I love when Dove says, I'm listening to a madman, who is a liar, who's telling me a lie that's not the truth, and I'm believing it. So I'm projecting it, and I'm projecting it out onto you. I'm blaming you for what I made the decision about. And this is something I've been working on for quite a long time now with these body issues. I mean, Rico, I heard you share about your, since you had your surgery, have a little pouch, right? Well, I had a big pouch. I had, I don't know if anybody ever heard of abdominal distension, but from my surgery, not only they cut like 9.5 inches in my back, and then I was in the hospital for a week, and I don't mean to sound gross or anything, but I didn't have a bowel movement because I was on all this anesthesia and medication. I only had one bowel movement before I left, one. And I had a really hard time, and I had my abdomen was bloated, and I looked like I was pregnant almost. It was terrible. And my body's still not right. And, I went through a lot of upset over these physical issues that this surgery put me through. There were so many, I can't name them all, still going through the recovery process. But I had to recognize that it had nothing to do with my body. My senses were making me believe I could justify this upset on my body, but the upset was in my mind. The upset was I was thinking these thoughts about my body and believing they were the truth and they were the real cause, and the cause was in my mind. So that the body taught me a lot. So it was a lot of good things that happened through this. But without protection, it could not endure. So an unforgiving thought protects projection. It tells us that in the very first question in the workbook, what is forgiveness? And without protection, it could not be endured. If I'm not protecting it, I'm looking at it. I'm forgiving it, and I'm recognizing it's not the truth. And here is all sickness cherished, but without the recognition that this is so. For when an unforgiveness is not recognized, the form it takes seems to be something else. It seems to be something else, and it's never that something else. That something else is I always think it's something else. I always think it's the body, the person, the whatever, and it's not. But this body, I'll tell you, this body has been my biggest classroom, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning, and I'm still forgiving, and I'm still grateful for it now. I'm grateful for the lessons that I'm learning, because it's always the mind that needs to be healed. So who can cure what cannot be sick and make it well? The very last question. Who can cure what cannot be sick and make it well? I cannot cure a body that cannot be sick. I can only cure my mind. Thanks.
Wow, thank you, Karen. What a beautiful breakdown there. And yes, yes, yes. That's what we have to come to understand. It is a choice. When people used to say, when I first start studying the course, and you would say, oh, I'm sick or this bad, something has gone wrong. They would say, a healed mind cannot suffer. How people will say stupid stuff like that to you. And you're like, well, I guess I must be suffering. But it's true. You have when you realize that suffering is optional, always, no matter how, no matter what the situation is, and I've learned that myself from having, numerous accidents, which makes it seem like I'm a real klutz, but honestly, no, I'm not. Well, I am, because I have I have problems with my inner ears, and I don't have any balance, but and I'm blind in one eye, and the dog ate my homework. But all the reasons that I think, that there's something wrong. Every time anything happened, it started out, I would be upset, and then I knew I just had a choice. I can suffer about this or not. I can sit around and say, poor me, all this crap can happen, and I can be, having my own little pity party, or I can just recognize that, these are just things that happen, and nothing really happened to me at all. Nothing really happened to me at all. It was always to, my shoulder or my knee or my eye, or, and I call it mine because, it's the body I carry around, but none of it really had anything to do with me. And that's, I think the best thing for me to understand is none of it has anything to do with what I am. So yeah, there's who can cure what cannot be sick and make it well? That's, what I am. I cannot be sick. So if I have a notion that I'm sick, then I'm confused, but I'm not really sick. It's impossible. The body, yes, the body, it's a mortal thing. It's a machine, and it will break down, and it will have problems, and you have to, recognize that it has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with me. So, anybody else have any thoughts on this? Yeah, Rico, please go ahead.
Just for a quick draw McGraw, I think Karen and somebody else think Rafty, I think maybe even you, they clarified this part for me. But it is not the something else that can be healed. That really clarified some stuff for me.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, wow. Exactly. Anybody else have anything on this? All right. This is some good stuff. All right, let's look at paragraph 5. Who'd like to read paragraph 5? All right, Laura, please go ahead.
On the subject of the debate tonight, just quickly, there's the conspiracies going around on the internet. Don't know if you guys have heard that it won't be Joe Biden tonight, but it's somebody else wearing a Joe Biden mask. Lynn, did you hear that? Yeah. So don't believe your lying eyes. He's wearing a mask.
Oh, my.
Laugh that, Laura. We have to laugh. I mean, come on, like
He
I
is
think
wearing a
this
mask. He's wearing a
election
Joe
shows-
Biden mask because he's Joe Biden.
But here's the thing, I think this election just shows that none of this is real. Because
Yeah.
if this were real, this stuff wouldn't be happening. I heard earlier too, that he was on drugs, Joe Biden. That came from his,
Well, yeah, that's sounds like projecting to me, but
really. But
Oh,
here's
yeah.
the thing, what came to my mind, and I'm sorry for just butting in, but this is all in me because
Yeah.
they're not here. I'm watching them on a TV. Like just
You
like I'm
got
watching,
it.
and then I have opinions of you on what I made up or my ego made up. If I see you as the Christ, you're the same. But if I see you different, then so I have to do that, Laura, because I'm, this is challenging, but I'm going to have a classroom tonight. For sure.
right.
Take the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit, because Holy Spirit is what we are, and we just have to be in our true self.
Me too. It can be challenging, but let's look at both as, spirits that they are in reality. And maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the whole thing's just an illusion. We're the spirits. I'm looking at a television. Is
Right,
it
you're not even seeing
right?
anything, but go ahead.
So,
The way
Yeah.
that when Karen was explaining about what's going on with the census and Brooklyn too, we're complete, there is no us. So this is all just an organic, like a machine that's working through us. But I think that
Yeah.
I still feel Sharon is real. There's a part of me that still sees that, but that's because I still have some ego there. Not as much, but I have ego for sure.
well, you are real.
Yeah, I'm real.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing unreal about what we are,
Yeah.
but we don't see the reality of it. And yeah, if you're looking at both of the candidates and seeing the Christ in them, then you're not going to hear animosity. You're going to hear the truth is going to come out from both of them in a way that you didn't hear before because you're already set up with your own preconceived notion about what the person is and what they're the reality and truth of what they're saying. The fact is that none of it's true. You're right. This is an illusion. It really is not really happening. It's just here to show us something about our own thinking. And so, let's use it for that. Let's use it for that instead of using it to judge and become afraid. Because there's nothing to fear.
Yes. That sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I read this
Tomorrow,
quick?
Glorian has her group tomorrow, so we'll meet tomorrow and see how.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Karen, go ahead. You are muted.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to read something from Ken Wapnick that talks about the practical, the level 2, the practical way to live this world and live in this world, not the metaphysical, the practical way. He says, we currently believe we're in this world. However, it's not helpful to teach or preach or change anyone or tell them, for example, it's all an illusion. So why are you crying? But we need to meet them where they are and do our best to be truly helpful. It is helpful to be normal and do things that everyone else is doing. Unless our not being normal is not increasing separation or specialness in our minds, in which case we follow our inner guide. So we just be normal, I mean, we don't have to worry about any of this other stuff. We're here, we're in the world. And as long as we don't have guilt, the guilt is what kills us, just be normal. And that's his message. And I just love it. That's all.
Yeah, I love it. Just be normal.
Yep.
I love it. Anybody else have any thoughts about this paragraph?
I love that Karen brought that in. I do. I love it. Because the more I feel, the thing is, this is where the good food is. This is the food that we need to eat. We don't need to get into the other stuff. So yeah.
Yep, exactly. Dove, did you want to say something?
No.
Okay. All right. I thought I heard your voice. So
I'll go ahead and read it.
sure.
Sickness takes many forms, and so does unforgiveness. The forms of one but reproduce the forms of the other, for they are the same illusion. So closely is one translated into the other that a careful study of the form a sickness takes will point quite clearly to the form of unforgiveness that it represents. Yet seeing this will not affect a cure. That is achieved by only one recognition, that only forgiveness heals an unforgiveness, and only an unforgiveness can possibly give rise to sickness of any kind. And this book is all about forgiving, overlooking, forgiving. Yeah, that's it. I mean, search your mind. I've gone through the past year of searching for those unforgiveness, and it's not necessarily easy to do, maybe for some people, but it's worth looking at it. Don't let it get dismissed. Don't dismiss it anymore. Just because, you realize you get to the point where, oh, that grievance disappeared. And that's what the Course says will happen when you've truly forgiven. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Laura.
So
Yeah,
helpful.
and what happens? He says that you can understand the form of sickness from the form of unforgiveness that it represents. So, what kind of forms of sickness is he talking about? Is he talking about anger is a form of sickness? What is it that unforgiveness, that anger represents? What am I angry about? What am I not forgiving that I'm you know experiencing anger from? Or sadness. If I'm experiencing sadness, what is the unforgiveness that's happening in me that is causing me to experience sadness? Maybe I'm resentful of my family, or unhappy about the government, or upset about the weather, or my body, or my health, or whatever. And all of those upsets, all those things that I'm experiencing, if I just look and see what is it that I'm not forgiving that's causing me to be afraid of the government, or afraid of the election. What am I not forgiving that's causing me to have fear about, this thing that I think I'm seeing? And it could be, I don't like someone telling me how to live, or what to do. I have a resentment of authority, the authority problem right there. If I'm upset about the government, that's a real symbol of the authority problem, I would think. Or I'm upset about my parents, same thing. Or, we got to get over thinking about the sickness as being something that has to do with body, like I have cancer, I have a cold or something, and really look at it as a form of unforgiveness, that of something that we can it's almost like and I don't like to really reference this stuff too much, but it's almost like those old Louise Hay books where she's talking about, if you have ulcers, it's because, what can't you digest? What in your mind are you unable to digest? Or if you have breathing problems, what are you what are you uh, what part of life are you rejecting? There's, if you have a backache, is it because you're trying to shoulder the weight of the world? There's there's, I don't know what they all are, because I really, kind of looked at it and said, that's, if my knee hurts, it's because, I'm, inflexible in my thinking, or, whatever. I don't know what all her things are, but you get when you start looking at for, what is the cause of these things that I seem to think are happening, and look for, where am I not forgiving? Just look for, where am I not forgiving? And you'll see, look at the debate, where am I not forgiving here? Man, I'm angry about this guy. I'm angry about what they did. I'm angry about what I thought. These are all things where I'm not in forgiveness, and I'm going to be upset, if things don't go my way. And uh, it's just uh it's just ignorance of our own thinking, our own minds. Vishnu, please go ahead. You're muted.
Yes, I gotta get used to this different machine here. To add to this discussion on the last part here is and what you were saying. This is achieved by only one recognition that only forgiveness heals an unforgiveness, and only an unforgiveness can possibly give rise to sickness of any kind. And it took me a long time to understand this concept. And then, I was working at a publisher in my early 20s, and I really, my parents were like, you need to get a job and do this and do that. And like, okay, fine, I'll go work for somebody, which, was like the toughest thing for me to do at the time. And I swear to God, the day I started this job, I would get these canker sores, and every week until for like 4 months, I would get these canker sores. And the moment I left that publisher, it stopped, and it took me time to realize what was this unforgiveness, and understanding that sometimes, so that's an obvious one, but there are times when you're like, well, okay, I've got this situation, like you said, maybe it's your knee or it's whatever it is that we're going through, and sometimes it's not obvious, sometimes it's not it's like the previous section that was just like, unconscious guilt, and understanding that, okay, well, then how do I get to that point of understanding what this unforgiveness is? But really, it doesn't really matter what it is, because the whole point is to be love itself. And I think you said in a few classes ago that to being love is allowing love to be, or something like that, which I really thought was quite insightful. And I feel like, we can spend the rest of our lives analyzing, okay, this problem is because of this unforgiveness, and because of this unforgiveness, it's like virus removal, when really what we need to do is a complete reboot and just be love itself. That's my kind of takeaway from that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Vishnu. And yeah, I mean, that's all we can do, is just look, and look with an open mind, and not be afraid of what you're going to see, because that's the main reason we stop looking, is because we become afraid of what we're going to see. But just look with an open mind, and with the Holy Spirit, just ask the Holy Spirit, help me to see this differently. So let's see. Oh gosh, we're at the end of our time. Okay. Well, I guess that was we still have a
Boy,
few.
that went fast.
It did go fast, didn't it? I love it. It makes me so happy.
This is like the best section. You really have to sit with all this, because it's taking you into what well, at least for me, the blind spots in the mind. I see unforgiveness in my mind quite a bit. So that's going to be, and what I was going to say, Lynn, is maybe sometime we could do the Dietrich thing,
Yeah,
'Cause that's what I'm gonna do anyway on my own, because sometimes pen to paper even works more. 'Cause
yeah,
sometimes it's embedded in you.
that
Like
is
what-
very true. That is very true. Yeah, so Dove, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to read the first few sentences of paragraph 6. I'm sure we'll start there next week, but this is very important. It says, this realization is the final goal of psychotherapy. How is it reached? The therapist sees in the patient all that he has not forgiven in himself and is thus given another chance to look at it, open it to reevaluation, and forgive it. So I'm always talking about myself. You know, whoever comes to me, it's really me coming to me, giving another chance to really look and forgive it. You got to laugh, really. So I just wanted to read that because that puts such a cap on tonight.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dove. And yeah, we'll start back. Maybe we'll back up a paragraph next week and and get into this. So thanks you guys so much. I love you. And keep
See
in
you
your
tomorrow.
mind. I'm not I'm contemplating whether to take this this someone is offering for me to go to Scotland for a retreat. And I'm contemplating whether to take it because I don't really have the money for it, but there's, some things that can maybe be worked out. So I probably will not do it, but I'm being really encouraged to do it. So
Is it a
we'll
Course in
see.
Miracles thing?
No, it's something else. So
Okay. Wow, that's
all right.
really good. I mean, I don't know. I think I would take it.
Oh, I know
So-
it. Well,
Yeah.
it's a lot of money. That's the reason I'm very hesitant about it. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens there. So,
The
I'm
baby in the group says, when in doubt, consult the Holy Spirit.
consult the Holy Spirit is exactly right. Exactly right. And that's what I said, if it's supposed to be, things will come through. So, and if not, they won't. And I'm happy both ways. So, uh, anyway, of course, the ego's like, you'll probably never get a chance of doing this ever again in your lifetime. And I'm like, well, who cares? Anyway, I love you guys, and we will see you all.
Love
Bye.
us.
This was so helpful. Thank you.
Yes,
Big
it was.
hugs.
Big
Everybody,
hugs to
good
y'all
night.
too. Bye bye.
you.
Night night.
Everyone.